Welcome Lund loyalists to John Lund Unleashed. Those watching on YouTube, on the John Lund Unleashed and Bay Area Sports Collective channels. Viewers on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and Lundos listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. John Lund Unleashed, brought to you by Reapel Sports Medicine. Got pain? Check out our revolutionary stem cell treatments. And guys, if low T is bringing you down, Reapel Sports Medicine can put you back in the game. Now all juiced up and ready to go, here's Johnny.
Good morning. Happy Saturday. Hope you are doing well on this Saturday, feeling well. Man, what a weekend already. Wilmer Flores hits 3 home runs yesterday, and we did an emergency show, broke this whole thing down. We'll do it again. Haters going to hate the response to Brock Purdy getting his new contract. We'll discuss that. Love to have you in. Thank you so much for joining us. We're exclusively today in, 3 locations. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Maybe you're watching there with a great community that we have put together, a bunch of awesome people, and we have fun every time we do the show. Also on the Bay Area Sports Collective. So in those 2 places on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed. John Lund Unleashed and the Bay Area Sports Collective. Why would you do both? Well, my channel is John Lund Unleashed, and then you have Tom Tolbert on the Bay Area Sports Collective, as well as Polymax Particles, Polymac, formerly, and of course doing the morning show on KNVR and Creative Tony. And we've added Rod Brooks and Quality Hang, as well as others to follow. So make sure that you follow both John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and the Bay Area Sports Collective. We're on X this morning as well. So if you're watching on X at John Lund Radio, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for making the time for us. You can migrate over to John Lund Unleashed. Join the channel, please, because not only will you get to watch the show and interact in the community, which is great, but also you can put those alerts on and hit us a like so that the algorithm can find us, which makes us bigger and better and all sorts of things with the community. But like yesterday, for example, I was on 3 times. I was on the morning show normally Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time for John Lund Unleashed. And then, of course, 10 a.m.-ish on Saturdays. But then yesterday it was Brock News broke in the middle of the afternoon. So I was on about 3 o'clock Pacific time. And then Larry Kruger and I in the Krug Show, we collaborate every Friday when the Giants are playing. And they were playing the A's, and Wilmer Flores had 3 home runs, and we were sucking down beers and having a great time and talking. A lot of it had to do with Brock Purdy's contract, but we talk about everything. Try to keep a lot of baseball going in there. So on 3 times yesterday. So maybe it was a bad day for you that I was on 3 times. But anyway, good time had by y'all yesterday. So make sure you have those alerts on is the point, because you never know when we're going to be jumping on the show. It is episode 142. Brock Purdy gets paid. We'll go over that one more time. 5/265. $181 million guaranteed, as you can see there on the chalkboard. You probably know that by now. Very, very fair deal, I think, for both sides, and I'll tell you why. Where the deal ranks, I'll explain also what is real money, what is not. You probably know, but I'll redo this. I don't understand. I will never understand the reaction from the haters. He's a top 5 to 10 quarterback in this league, and if you don't believe me, I'll throw the list in front of you. Look, I don't care what anybody's list says. I don't care who's on a Mount Rushmore. You know this about me. I don't care what, the quickest way to get me off of a story is Stephen A. Smith says. Stephen A. Smith thinks. Kendrick Perkins says. Kendrick Perkins thinks. Any of these guys that are paid to basically whatever their opinion is that specific day, and they don't watch enough and they don't know enough and all these kind of things. So that's fine. For some weird reason, a guy who should be celebrated, who is picked 262 and does seemingly, because we really don't know these guys, but seemingly does everything right on and off the field. Married, good guy. Not that makes you a good guy, but, seems to have a really good family and a good head on his shoulders, and he does everything right, and he's worked hard, and he was overlooked. And now he gets the biggest increase in professional sports history, from under $1 million to, on average, $53 million. And again, I'll explain how that works. That's not exactly accurate, but that's what the number is going to say, and makes the agent jump up and down, and everybody gets excited, and what a great agent he is. Anyway, we'll get into that a little bit, but the point is that it should be celebrated. It should be a movie. It should be people going, damn, that's motivational. All those kind of things that should be done. But for some reason, assholes like Mike Florio and others, and Florio should know better. Just one example of a million. But on Monday, everybody, is he worth it? Is he not? They overpaid. They can't win. Like Puka Nacua, a guy who was taken in the 5th round by the Rams. And one of the cardinal rules is you don't talk about other guys' money. And you're saying because the 49ers are going to pay Brock Purdy $50 million, which is the going rate for Super Bowl winning quarterbacks that they can't win. Mahomes got over 50. Jalen Hurts got over 50. Your guy, Matthew Stafford, made a ton of money when you won the Super Bowl. It's not holding the Bengals back. Joe Burrow just got paid a bunch of money. They should need to pay Trey Hendrickson, but they eventually probably will. Everybody pays everybody. Everybody makes an obscene amount of money, but somehow they make it work. When's the last time a quarterback who wasn't compensated properly won the Super Bowl? I don't know. It's been a while. Point is that no matter what the number is, whether it was 25 that Jimmy was making or Derek Carr when they were for a moment the highest paid quarterbacks, that's just the way the league is. And you can for a few years overcome it. Seattle won a Super Bowl and Russell Wilson was a third round pick and wasn't making a ton of money. But then when he started making a ton of money, they had to get rid of guys. And that's not necessarily the impetus for the 49ers losing all these guys, because the first year the contract is going to be pretty low. And then you'll know the contract is over when it explodes. That's how most contracts work. I'll give you a great example. The only thing left for the 49ers to do in this offseason, they should be applauded for getting Kittle done early, for getting Brock done early, for maybe learning their lesson of, damn, do we want to have next year where it's hold out Williams, hold in Ayuk, or Bosa coming in late, or whatever the case may be? These deals were getting done in August and September, and now the Niners went, that's probably not the greatest idea in the world. How about we get these things done early, set a tone of the offseason, and get things going? Now Brock can go and throw with the receivers, knowing that he has guaranteed money and all these kind of things. So anyway, bottom line is that's what a great quarterback costs. And I'll show you in a minute. That's what Brock Purdy is. There's just not a lot of them. I'm not putting him in the elite class of the 3 or 4 that are in the NFL that are the greatest, but you don't have to be to win a Super Bowl. And he fits what the 49ers do. And if you don't think so, from the minute he became the starter of the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the entire organization has been enamored with Brock Purdy. I know it because I've heard it behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, the whole thing. They love Brock Purdy, and they think he fits perfectly on and off the field for the organization. And if you don't think that matters, you don't understand. It's, let me give the money to not only a player who we think is really, really good, but that position is unique in that you're the face of the franchise. And as far as character is concerned, I'm not saying he's this kind of a player. I'm saying as far as character is concerned and a guy that you'd want to give the money to be the face of your franchise, he's on a level with like a Steph Curry. Again, I'm not saying that from a playing standpoint. He's not Steph Curry as a player. I'm saying he's as a character person. He has that kind of character. And that's who you want to give the money to. And that's important when you're giving the money to a quarterback. It doesn't matter as much if it's a guard or a tackle or a receiver, whatever. They can be prima donnas, corners, whatever. But when it's a quarterback, you want a steady hand, and that's what that dude is. And the organization loves him. So regardless of the people who don't understand how the organization works or what he does for this team or why he wasn't as good last year, which we'll discuss, that's what's going on with the 49ers. And I think it's a very, very, very fair deal. So anyway, thanks for joining us today. It is John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and the Bay Area Sports Collective. Good morning to all of our friends in the chat room who are very nice to be here this morning. Good morning. Good morning. And a lot of you last night were with Krug and I in the Krug Show doing what was somewhat a Giants A's bottom of the pint show. But of course, with Brock Purdy signing, that's exactly what we got. And I saw a bunch of people jumping in the room last night. So that was very, very cool. Let me see here. Already talking about Florida. What do we got today in the chat room? Very, very cool, man. Let's see. Yeah, I've heard this same thing. Capman only eat 5 and it was going to be 5. So it's really, yeah. I mean, I have, yes, the guys at Spot Racking over the cap. I know that Lombardi's done some numbers on it, and I think that's what he said. But yeah, whatever the cap is, whether it's 8.5 or this, that, or the other, they didn't. There's a misnomer that they cleared the money because they couldn't afford Brock. That's not true. The first couple of years of the deal is, he was making $1 million, so you're obviously adding money to it. But it wasn't because Brock Purdy's contract was coming up. It's because Jed York looked at it and they had $334 million that they spent last year for a team that went 6-11. And I've told you this about Joe Lacob before and all owners in sports, and I hate to repeat myself over and over and over again, but even the ones who really want to win badly, the Jed Yorks, the Mark Cuban types, the Joe Lacob types, the Dodgers group, at some point they all go, what am I paying for? Like, I'm not a first place team running away with it anymore. I'm not going to just keep spending money and be a dumbass. I'm a businessman. So the majority of the owners treat it like a business and they don't go all out to win. And those teams who do at certain points during the process decide we're not a championship caliber team. And I'm not going to just be stupid and keep throwing a bunch of money against the wall. That's dumb. I'm a businessman. I'm smart. I want to win. Like I said, probably 20% of the owners in sports, maybe even less, have a real burning desire to win. The other 80% treat it like a business. If you don't believe me, I've talked to a ton of owners and they've told me that flat out, on the air, off the air, all of it. It's just, hey, it's a business. It's another one of my businesses. And then you have the other ones who really want to win and have a burning desire to win, but they don't just keep throwing money at it constantly if they don't feel like they're in a championship window. And that's what happened to the 49ers in the offseason. They looked at Talanoa Hufanga and said, he's hurt too much. And they looked at Dre Greenlaw, and even though they wanted him back, they went, you're coming off a major Achilles here. Hang on a minute. They're not going to just throw stupid money after stupid money after stupid money when a team went 6-11. And a lot of it can be explained away with injuries, but not all of it. And so he thought, and they thought, that it was a perfect time for a bit of a reset. And it coincided with Brock Purdy. And I'm not saying it had nothing to do with it, because it did. But what it also had to do with was, this is stupid money that we're throwing against the wall here. Teams, the funniest thing about it is a couple of things. And I led with this whole Brock Purdy hating thing. A couple of things that blow my mind in this whole thing is, part of the excuses, well, Brock's got all his talent around him. So did Joe. So did Steve. Peyton Manning went to the Hall of Fame with a Hall of Famer in Marvin Harrison, a Hall of Famer in Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark. The only modern quarterback I think that just had okay talent around him was like Brady consistently, but he still had Gronk, and before murders, Aaron Hernandez, and for a season, Randy Moss. Like, no quarterback has nothing. Patrick Mahomes at his height, when he was throwing for tons of touchdowns and yards, Tyreek Hill. They had a ton of talent on that offense, and Travis Kelce, and still has Kelce. They don't have as much, but last year they went out and got a first-round wide receiver in Xavier Worthy. Why? I mean, if Mahomes is so good, why do you need that? Because every quarterback, no matter how good, needs talent around him. There isn't one that's existed in the history of mankind that didn't have talent around him and just did it by himself. I don't need an offensive line. I don't need offensive skill players, man. This is a one-man show. I got this. There isn't anybody like that. See the team that just won the Super Bowl? Jalen Hurts is pretty good, right? I give him a ton of credit. Still doesn't process things like Brock Purdy. He had A.J. Brown. He had Devontae Smith. He had a guy named Saquon Barkley. He had the best offensive line in the league. Think that mattered for Jalen Hurts? Think it matters that Jared Goff is playing so well and he plays indoors for the majority of his games, and he's got a two-headed running back in the backfield that's pretty damn good in Gibbs and Montgomery, and you think Amon-Ra's pretty good? You think that Laporta's decent? Jamison Williams' speed? You think that helps Jared Goff? Kind of. So you can go on down the line and look at every single quarterback, but for some reason, Brock gets criticized because he's got talent around him. Last year he didn't. Oh, he's not very good. Yeah, if you lose McCaffrey, you lose your number one wide receiver. You don't have a very good offensive line. You lose your Hall of Fame left tackle. It's probably going to affect you. I don't know. Could be. So, look, I expect Brock to play like he did the first 2 years that he started than last year, because he was just trying to do too much. It's easy to see if you watch, but people don't care. They follow the sheep. Oh, Brock Purdy sucks. Bah, yeah, he stinks. And you say the same thing on a national level. So, look, he's going to there's going to be criticism on Monday, but it's people who just don't know. It's A, they don't know. B, they're sheep and they just follow the hate. And C, because they just got to come up with something and they've just got to contradict, and everything is it's such a great story and all these different things, and it's a Disney movie and all that, and so people just got to hate and they got to find ways. And one of the ways is, well, he's got a ton of talent around him. Well, he's got Kyle Shanahan. He's got, like, everybody has something. A lot of these quarterbacks have massive advantages. Do you think that Patrick Mahomes is doing okay, and do you think that Andy Reid is a part of it? Probably. He might be the best he's the best right now offensive play caller, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid make a pretty damn good team. If it's not Andy Reid and it's a defensive mind, is Mahomes as good? If he doesn't go to Kansas City, if he goes to some place where quarterbacks go to die, like Chicago or Cleveland, do you think he's as good? Probably not. So it's situations, it's players around you, but for some reason, Brock gets criticized for it. That's just how it is. I don't know. And then in terms of the number itself, here's the deal. And you know this, but I'll tell you again. So $265 million is the total of the deal, but it's all a bunch of funny money. It's all a bunch of, tire pumping and inflation, it getting inflated and the agent doing a big dance. But let's just play with it because it's the board we have. So Mahomes overall value the most, Josh Allen 2, Trevor Lawrence 3. To be honest with you, I thought he was going to top Lawrence in every category. He took 53 for 181. Lawrence has 55 and 200 guaranteed, and he's better than Lawrence. Joe Burrow is great. Burrow gets 275 overall, 219 guaranteed, and then you bring in Brock. So overall number, he's fifth. Totally fair. Guys behind him, yep, Lamar Jackson's better, on the same par as Herbert. Herbert is the exact opposite of Brock. He's got all the physical skills, but doesn't put it together. Lamar Jackson is better. Jalen Hurts has great talent. Dak Prescott, Murray's okay. Watson's a joke. Should have got more than Love, I thought. But again, you're looking at overall money. Love got 160. I don't care if he gets 55 a year. It's irrelevant. He's better than Tua, and he's similar to Goff. So that's where he is, and that's where he should be. So there's no complaint there, although Monday someone will find out that there is. 53, the same kind of thing. It's with the inflated money, but Dak, again, joke. He's better than Love. Burrow's better. Lawrence, he's better than. Josh Allen's better. Tua, he's better than. Goff's similar. And then you go Herbert, Jackson, blah, blah, blah. You should have no issue with that. I thought he would at least get 55, 53, fair. And then the final number, and this is really the number that matters, is the 181. So Allen, Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Burrow, Lawrence, blah, 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 blah. He comes in, seventh on that list, right? Or eighth, whatever it is, ninth? I guess ninth. So overall money, ninth. He's at least a top 10 quarterback, right? So that money's all fair. So I don't know what the haters are going to do on Monday and how they're going to scream and yell and everything, because that's right there is the only number that matters. He's getting $181 million. We'll see the structure of the contract, but what you'll see is it'll start slow. It'll hit a crescendo point where you go, oh my God. And then at that point, that means the contract's over and they'll renegotiate the number because it's too high. But what that number does is it inflates the number up to the 265 and up to the 53 so that Brock and his agent can have a big party because he got paid where he got paid. But it's not at the top. He's not topping Josh Allen. He's not topping Burrow. He's not topping Lamar Jackson, who got 185. So he's in that range that he should be in. Sorry, Mahomes, you have 141 guaranteed. That's not my fault. So he's in a perfect range for himself. So I don't know how someone could come in, look at those numbers and say, and someone will on Monday, he's not worth $181 million. And really what the reality is, and maybe I'm wrong in this assessment, Trevor Lawrence has underwhelmed. I thought Trevor Lawrence would walk into the NFL and minus the injuries be Andrew Luck. I thought that he was the surest quarterback to come into the league since Andrew Luck. And remember, that was the same draft as Wilson and Trey and Mac Jones and Justin Fields and all that. So, yeah, compared to that crowd, if you're grading on a curve, he's better than those guys. But I saw him win a national championship at Levi's Stadium. That was the game. I'm like, this dude's the next great one. He started since midway through his freshman year at Clemson, so he played enough games. Yeah, did he having Urban Meyer, did that stunt his growth a little bit? Sure it did. But they brought in Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach and a really good offensive mind. Didn't help. They've spent a ton of money on the offensive line and the receivers. Hasn't really helped. Trevor Lawrence is just okay. But you know what? No one complains about his contract for some weird reason. Why? He was the number one overall pick in the draft. He got $200 million guaranteed. He's not as good as Brock. And he makes $55 million a year, again, on the system that we have. So he's paid higher than Brock Purdy. Not by a ton, but still, he's paid higher than Brock Purdy. And if Brock and his people wanted to hold out and say, we're getting $200 million and we're getting 55 a year, he could have easily done that because he could have looked at that number. And same with Jordan Love. Love didn't get as much guaranteed, which is the bottom line, but he's getting 55 a year. So Brock could have sat back like this and gone, look, I'm getting 55 and 200, and I'm not signing until it's done. If we get to 55 and 200, I'm signing. Most players would have done that. Most agents would have pushed for that. We got to get at least this. This is our bottom line right here, 55 and 200. But Brock, knowing Brock Purdy and knowing that he's like, look, I want to get in there. I want to set a tone for 2025. I want to start working with my guys. What's the difference between 180 and 200? His dad was a professional athlete. He's set for 10 generations of his family. He doesn't have a posse. He's not going to spend a bunch of money. He's not going to be stupid. He's not going to roll with some big old car. He's probably going to get the best Toyota he could possibly get, like a Sequoia, and it's not even going to be tricked out. It's not going to have big 22-inch rims on it. It's not going to have any of that. He's already married. Like he's looking at it like, what am I going to spend $180 million on? Even if I invest this at a really low rate, I'm set for the rest of my life, and so is 10 generations of my family. I mean, that's how we think as quote unquote normal people. I do. I got 180 to $200 million, whatever, man. Give me the 180, and I can't wait to sign it. So to me, that's what Brock Purdy did, and that's another reason why on Monday, those who are going to bitch and moan about it, how can you? He took less. He could have easily gotten $200 million and 55 per. No, there's no doubt in my mind. Now it would have taken a little bit more time, but Brock didn't want to wait around. So give Brock Purdy credit because I'm sure he took less, and give the Niners credit because clearly, philosophically, they're saying to themselves, no more July, August, September deals. That's bullshit. We can't have We can't be walking into 25 like we did 24. We've got to have a completely different mindset. Kittle gets done. Brock gets done. So I don't know what the haters are going to say about the 49ers either, because they got everything done. They got the easiest schedule in the league. I think they're going to win 10 to 11 games without too much of a sweat, unless they have similar injuries to a year ago. But that's kind of how I see it. I think that this is a win for both sides. I think it gets Brock in early. And yet on Monday, somehow, some way, there's producers for ESPN racking their brain right now because they pull the puppet strings on these guys, because I've been there. And they're going to say, okay, Screaming A, you take this side. There's this of it. There's that of it. It's a Disney movie. How can you poke holes in Brock Purdy? Oh, he's not very good. Okay. Right now, if his career ended, if he had enough attempts, he'd have the highest passer rating of all time. Aaron Rodgers has it right now. Brock's is higher. So I'm not saying that, Brock is the best quarterback of all time, but if 2 of your first 3 years was a championship game, then a Super Bowl, and then last year had a bunch of injuries and tried to do too much, I'm not saying he's Justin Herbert physically. He's not. He needs help around him. So do all quarterbacks. But, he tried to do too much last year. I think Brock's going to bounce back, and that's not homerism. That's logic. He's going to have a bunch of talent around him. So I think he's going to be fine. Absolutely. I think he's more the quarterback that played the first 2 years than last year. There's no doubt about it. But let's just compare everything, all right? Because everybody thinks there's so many great quarterbacks in the league, and there's just not. Brock's not a top 5 or a top 10. Okay. This is my own tiers, and I really don't give a shit about anybody's tiers, and you probably don't care about mine, but I'm just saying it right off the top of my head. Lund said this, that. Who cares, right? But tier 1 is easily Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow. You can put them in any way you want, but those are the 4 best quarterbacks in the league, and there's not really much of a debate about it. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Those are the top 4. Okay, they're ahead of everybody. Then the next tier is completely debatable. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Maybe you love Justin Herbert because he's got such physical talents. Matthew Stafford's done it for a long time. Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl, although he doesn't scan the field like Purdy, but he has a lot of talent around him. Give him his love. Jaden Daniels, let's see you do it again. Let's see you do it again, because last year, you know what, at this very time, C.J. Stroud, everybody loved. C.J. Stroud did not have a good year in Houston. You got to do it for more than 1 year. But you know what? Jaden Daniels was so good, and Washington was turned around in a season. I'm going to put him there. He maybe deserves to be in 3 because he's got to prove it again, but whatever. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So Daniels is there. Herbert is there. You got to give it up. Jordan Love, I almost put in the tier 3. Goff has tons of talent around him, and when Dak's healthy, he's good. I'll still put him in. I almost put him in tier 3, but I'll put him there. Okay, my point is this. After the first 4, who knows? You can even go to the next tier, and I put Murray there. On a given day, Murray can just frustrate the hell out of a defense, run around, throw it, look really, really good. He's just not consistent enough. C.J. Stroud took a step back. Tua, to me, if Miami had a better quarterback, they'd be a much better team. He's just okay. Sam Darnold, let's see you do it again in Seattle. You don't have as much talent as you had in Minnesota. You got to give Baker Mayfield his love. Geno Smith, I'm not a huge fan of. Didn't play great against the Niners much in Seattle. Bo Nix, do it again. Trevor Lawrence, there he is right there. I thought he'd be a tier 1 guy by now, not. And then tier 4 is either old guys or young guys. Aaron Rodgers, I just don't believe him anymore. Russell Wilson, I think, is done. Kirk Cousins, injuries took it away. And then May and Williams, they could be really good this year, especially Caleb Williams with the type of players that the Bears got. So they have a lot of skill position players. They fixed the interior of their line. Let's see what Caleb Williams is. He wasn't very good last year. But his eyes went down a lot. He got sacked a ton. So some's on him. Bryce Young, I don't know. I maybe put him in tier 5, but okay, I'll give him a benefit of the doubt for a minute. And then tier 5 is just who the hell knows. Saints, they just lost Derek Carr. Don't know what they're going to do. Colts are Richardson or Daniel Jones. Browns are a complete dumpster fire at quarterback. And then I don't know, because Cam Ward, I'm not a huge fan of Cam Ward. We'll see. And Michael Penix didn't play enough in Atlanta. So whatever. You can pick apart my rankings and my tiers, and I really don't care. But my overall point is that tier 1 is clear. And then tier 1, if you wanted to put Murray in there, okay. If you wanted to kick down, I don't know, Daniels because he only did it for 1 year, I get it. If you don't like Jared Goff, okay. If you want to move Dak down, okay. If you want to move, Trevor Lawrence up or Murray up, or, my point is that 2 and 3 are pretty fluid. But I know this, that Brock Purdy on any given Sunday could be the 5th best quarterback in the league. He could be the 12th best quarterback in the league, just depending on week to week. That's just how it is. It's a fluid situation. I do believe that tier 2 probably has Stafford in it every single week, has I love Herbert's physical skills, but he doesn't always play to it. But, maybe it has Herbert in it every single week. Like, it just depends. But point is that when the haters come out and say, like, for example, Florio came out yesterday and said he's barely a top 10 quarterback, maybe not a top 10 quarterback. And I thought to myself, okay, not that I care about Mike Florio's top 10. Point is, there's not that many great quarterbacks. There's four great ones. And then after that, it's all depending on week to week. Kyler Murray could have a week that's like, damn, you look like the best quarterback in the league. Justin Herbert can have a game where he throws 3 touchdowns that are rainbows. He's on the run and throws some ridiculous pass. And you're like, damn. I mean, the bottom line to Brock Purdy, the thing that he does best is he sees the field. It's a mental game for Brock. And and people who don't understand the game enough, don't watch enough, don't care enough, whatever, just care about the surface stuff. I'm going to yell, scream as loud as they can, Stephen A., is they don't understand the mental side. They don't understand that Brock Purdy's got 3 plays in his head as he's coming to the line, changes it, gets the ball to the right people, anticipates, does all those things. And they just see how hard it's thrown and this and that. They don't understand it. His superpower is a mental power, and it does not compute. They have to see Justin Herbert throw it through a brick wall. That's what they think is greatness. And we have that same problem in baseball where if a guy doesn't throw 98 or 99, well, he can't be any good. Well, Greg Maddux is pretty damn good. And that's what Brock Purdy is. I'm not saying he's as good as Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is one of the all-time greats, but that's the comp. It's a mental game. Maddux wasn't throwing 98. He was throwing 3 different changeups, 4 different fastballs, spotting in a bunch of different spots. He was the thinking man's game, and that's what Brock does. And that's not sexy. And that's why there's hate. Because they don't understand, they can't see it. He doesn't throw 98, 99. He's not breaking off a slider that's like, God, look at that. He's not Ohtani. He's not. People struggle with that kind of guy. But that's what Joe Montana was. And in today's day and age of social media, it would have been interesting. Joe's just too small. Joe's got Jerry Rice. Joe's got John Taylor. Joe's got Roger Craig. Joe's got, that would all be going on right now because that's how we are. So they think even though every quarterback that's really, really good has all these weapons, somehow Brock gets singled out. Well, Brock, there had to be a reason. And this is really the whole thing. Is there had to be a reason he was picked 262. Yeah, there was. He's not as big. He doesn't have as big of an arm. He doesn't, but he's adequate in all areas. He's not an athlete. Look at that guy. Well, yeah, he is. He's a really, really good athlete. Ask the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. How many key first downs did he run for? He's not Lamar Jackson. Nobody is, but he can make enough plays with his legs. He gets the ball to the right place, which is a superpower. He sees what the defense is doing, which is a superpower. So, look, I think Brock Purdy is going to be the Brock Purdy that we saw in the first 2 years, and that Brock Purdy deserves this contract and more. So, it'll be interesting on Monday to see all the haters, but I don't know. I just don't know what they can say. It's a very fair contract. It's a top 10 quarterback contract, and Brock Purdy, no question in my mind, is a top 10 quarterback. And like I said, I'll pop this up here one more time. Not that you care, but on a given week, if Stafford played Purdy could outplay him. He's outplayed Jalen Hurts. Hurts is the exact opposite of Purdy as well. Great runner, really good athlete, not a great seer of the field, does not really scan the field really, really well, and he can have trouble. Brock Purdy, because of his size, can have trouble. Jaden Daniels looked great. It's 1 year. Justin Herbert can throw it through a brick wall. Great. Doesn't play great every week. Jordan Love's hot and cold. Jared Goff needs conditions to be really well, kind of like Brock does. Dak Prescott's hurt a lot, and Dallas underachieves. And then you go to the next level. Murray, he can look great week to week. Stroud took a step back. Tua doesn't have a strong enough arm. Darnold did it for 1 year. Baker has come back from the dead. Geno Smith has come back from the dead. Knicks did it 1 year. Trevor Lawrence is a disappointment. And then you get into old guys and Rodgers will. You get into young guys in May and Caleb Williams. Probably should have put Bryce Young to the next one. Saints, Colton's Brown have a terrible situation. We don't know about Ward and Penix. That's the league. That's the quarterbacks. There's 4 great ones. After that, who knows? Brock could outplay every quarterback in that next tier. Every one of them on a given Sunday. And he can be outplayed by anybody in that tier too. That's just what the league is. There aren't 10 great ones. There aren't 15 great ones. It's a crapshoot. It's the toughest position in all of sports to fill. And here's the bottom line. When you find one that is good, doesn't even have to be great. I say this all the time. You don't have to be the greatest. You have to be the latest. He's the latest. And it's a completely fair deal. If he had gotten $300 million and got $60 million, at $60 million a year and had gotten, $225 million guaranteed, yeah, the haters are going to hate. I still wouldn't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. But the haters were going to hate. But I don't know what they can say on Monday for a top 10 quarterback pay or for top 10 quarterback pay for a top 10 quarterback. Doesn't make any sense, but it'll happen. You watch. Monday we'll get together and the morning blabber shows will be on and they'll say a bunch of dumb stuff and people will click on it. And then on social media, it'll say Stephen A says, Stephen A thinks. Who cares? I don't care what he thinks or knows. He doesn't know anything. His specialty is the NBA and he doesn't even know that. And don't even get me started on that he's going to be part of the NFL. What's a way to ruin the NFL, Alex? Have Stephen A. Smith on it? Yes, you are correct. Anyway, give me your thoughts on Brock's new deal. I think it's completely fair on both sides. And like I said, from a big picture standpoint, if the 49ers have decided we're sick of July, August, and September contracts for extensions, that's great news. That's as good a news as Brock Purdy getting extended because now it's, okay, you know what? That was stupid. And we're waiting way too long on these contracts. So that's good news just as well. Good morning to 49er Brian. Hi, Papa J, Pat H. It's great to see some new names in the house today in a Saturday edition. Hi, Skills. It was great to see you last night as well. Really good to see everybody today. Fareed in the house as well. Thank you for making the time. Did I say 49er Brian? Thank you for making the time on a Saturday edition of the show. Much appreciated. Again, if you got any thoughts on Brock Purdy, there you go. It is episode 142. Purdy gets paid 5 and 265, 181 guarantee. Where the deal ranks, Brock deserves the deal. Top 5 to 10 quarterback. That's where we are as far as everything is concerned. And we did that in 30 minutes. I'm pretty proud of us for doing that. Let me see what do I have anything else on Brock? I just want to make sure that I emptied the tank here on Brock. Do I have anything else? What is this thing? What is that? No. Oh, that's Stephen A. Never mind. I don't want to play that. I don't want to put that up there. What else? Oh, the crocodile. Oh, I guess I could do that at the end. All right. Let's hit a couple of quick things. We're just here for a quick one today on a Saturday. I wanted to say good morning to everybody. And we did do a Brock show yesterday that you can go back and watch. Plus, I'm in the middle of writing a blog post on it at johnlundunleashed.com. And remember, you can go to johnlundunleashed.com for archives of YouTube shows, of podcasts, merchandise, social media links, and, of course, the blog, which you write. So make sure that you hit that up at johnlundunleashed.com for all things John Lund Unleashed. All right, yesterday, so as Krug and I were doing the show, and even though it was a bottom of the pint show, the majority of the discussion clearly was about Brock's new deal, and it should have been. That was the big news story of the day, but don't get it lost. A's and Giants, and I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. We were, I had a TV going on. I had had an iPad going on. We were talking Brock Purdy. I was still watching the game. By the way, you got to go back. I have it on my page as well at John Lund Unleashed. Shooty Babbitt joined us at about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through the show, and our good friend Chris Townsend popped him on for us. So, he's in the booth at the game, and Shooty's the greatest guy. So you should go back and watch. It was just a lot of fun to talk to Shooty. Hadn't talked to him in a long time. But that was a lot of fun. But Wilmer Flores hits 3 home runs last night, and he's got as many RBIs as Aaron Judge. Just unbelievable. And they beat the A's last night. Here is Wilmer after the game.
You're going to see when you come to the ballpark, right? It's always in my mind to have a good game. But when you do, it's kind of... but when you do, it's kind of hard to believe. We know how hard this game is, and it's just nice to help the team.
Oh, what a good dude! I mean, that's just awesome. I couldn't believe it. And the third one, because we were talking, and like I said, I got a TV in front of me, got an iPad to the side, and one's got stats on it, one's got the game on it. And I look up and I see Wilmer going around the bases, and I thought on the third one, and I thought to myself it was like a replay or something, but then the board changed. I think it made it 8-1 at that point. And I was like, okay, the guy's got a granny, the guy's got a 3-run shot, and he's just a solo shot. It's like, it's unbelievable. And especially given the fact, and if you watch the show on any regular basis, I've just had it with Lamonte Jr. Just had it. And part of it is the Giants' fault. Part of it is his fault. He's hitting like a $154. We're a quarter of the way into the season. The guy's got to at least go down to the minors. Like, of course, you need another first baseman. And I've talked about Reese Hoskins and all this kind of stuff. Who's, by the way, in the last year of a deal, they've got a mutual option for next year. He's from Sacramento. Makes a ton of sense. I'm not saying he's great. I'm just saying he's a hell of a lot better than Lamonte Jr. Then you can put Wilmer Flores at DH. And now if Bailey's not hitting behind the plate, you're okay, because at just about every other position you're cooking with gas. So, it drives me crazy. So it was offsetting that Wilmer was playing last night and hit the 3 home runs, and then Wade would come up and wave. He might as well just bring a noodle to the plate at this point, waving at pitches out of the zone, and you're just like, do the guy a favor. Honestly, do the guy a favor and just put him in the minors and just have him work through it, because he's not going to work through it at the major league level. He's losing his confidence like crazy. He used to be an on-base machine, which still would piss you off at times, because it's like you're hitting 2 and we need you to knock in a run, and he wouldn't even do that. And now he's not even getting on base, and the Giants are doing him a disservice. We're a quarter of the way into the season, man. Like, throw the guy down to the minors and see if someone else can work with him. You're working this out at the major league level when you're trying to go for a wild card. I mean, the Dodgers are ahead of you. They're going to win the division, but you're dealing with the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and now you look at the other, the East, where the Mets are actually a good team, and the Phillies and the Braves are going to do something, and Cardinals and the Cubs, and now you're playing against every other team. You can't wait on Lamont Wade Jr. Anyway, I don't want to get into that whole rant as far as that goes, because I want to celebrate Wilmer. What a cool story. Wilmer Flores was completely forgotten. I remember when he was the Mets shortstop and he's crying and all that kind of stuff because he thought he was traded. And now he comes over and he's just a really cool member of the Giants. And to have, last year, and believe me, I'll be the first one to admit it, when he hit 4 home runs, knocked in like 23, was hurt a lot of the year. And I'm like, get rid of Wilmer Flores, man. In fact, when he was up, I think it was the first game of the year, and we were doing bottom of the pint, and I think he was up in a critical situation, and I was like, come on, man, not Wilmer. And then I don't know if he hit a home run or a double. He did something really, really good, and he just got off to obviously a great start. And now here he is, like as many RBIs as Aaron Judge. I don't know if Judge has done anything this morning, but as of last night, it was like 41 RBIs apiece. And it was just like, are you kidding me? 3 home runs, 8 RBIs last night. Just a really cool story. And the Giants beat the A's. By the way, my stepson was going to the A's and Giants. We were going to go today, but we're not. And then tomorrow we've got some plans. So I'm not going to be able to make it to the yard this weekend, which sucks. John Shea did write a piece before I pop up Mike Dunleavy here. John Shea did write a piece today that said the A's and the Giants game didn't feel the same. And because I didn't go to the game and won't be able to go this weekend, I don't know that I can dispute that. I've told you before, I've been to a couple of Raiders-Niners games at the new joint. Went to the Super Bowl, obviously, where there were the Niners, and have seen a couple other Raider games as well. And yeah, Raiders games in Vegas could not be more different than Raiders games in Oakland. They couldn't be. So that's my strong opinion there. I went up to Sutter Health Park, the third game of the year, Cubs and A's, and it just felt like a spring training game. I'm not saying that in a negative sense. That's just how it felt. And then I haven't been there for this one. So maybe I'll flip a couple of calls today and see what they think. But I don't know. Watching on TV, it felt the same, but maybe it's not. Sacramento's not that far from Oakland. It might as well be, years away for certain people there. I get it. You're not going to go up and see the A's. I completely understand why. I wouldn't give John Fisher a dime. I would go now. If, let's say, I'm an A's fan and they're playing right now in San Francisco, I'd go down. I'd go today, because you're not giving John Fisher money technically. So, I would go to that game. I wouldn't go up to Sacramento if I was an Oakland fan, diehard Oakland fan, and I get why. So I'll talk to Townie or somebody else about it and see what it feels like, because I can't say that it does or it doesn't. It felt like it through the TV, but that's not always the case. So if you're at the game last night, I'd love to know what you thought between A's and Giants. And to be honest, it wasn't a very close game. So I don't know. I don't know if the buzz was there or what the deal was. So anyway, there's that. And then finally today, I'm not ripping on Mike Dunleavy when I say this, and it's on the board, and it says Dunleavy BSing on JK, which means he's bullshitting about Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is 100% getting traded. Not 99, not 98, not 97, not 90, not 85, not 50-50. He is 100% getting traded. Now, if you go back to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, the locker cleanout day, and I was down at those press conferences, and he said, we're not in the business of letting good players go. And then they traded Deebo Samuel unceremoniously for like a 5th-round pick, right? Dre Greenlaw or whatever. They're not in a position at this point of the offseason to say anything negative about a player. Plus, I tell you this all the time. They have to lie. It's lying season 24/7, 365 in professional sports. And you know why? Because why would you say you're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga and lose leverage? Yeah, we don't really want Kuminga. He doesn't really work for us. There's been problems behind the scenes. We're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga 100%. You know where your leverage just went? You know where his value just went? Like that sound effect? So they're not going to say anything about that. We love Jonathan Kuminga. This. Well, why wasn't he in the rotation? If you love him so much, why couldn't you find a place for him? This is a guy that easily scored 30 points against the Timberwolves had a great regular season against the Rockets in which he averaged 21 points per game and had a 33-point game, a career high against the Rockets, yet he couldn't play in the series, and he couldn't play in the Minnesota series until Steph got hurt? How come you guys couldn't figure that out? If you love him so much, nobody asked that question. And if you loved him so much, why wasn't he in the rotation? So anyway, he's getting traded. They need size. I mean, it's so glaring that they need size, especially in this Western Conference. They barely got through to Houston. They crushed them with size. They didn't beat Minnesota clearly. And you can say that it was just because of Steph. It wasn't just because of Steph. Was that the major reason? Yes. But size was the major problem in that. And I still think Minnesota wins that series. And they wouldn't have beaten Oklahoma City. They wouldn't have beaten a Denver or anything like that. They wouldn't have beaten those teams. They wouldn't go over to the East and beat a team that has size like the Knicks have. They're way behind in that. So they can sit there and say all these nice things about their core and all these different deals. Bottom line to the whole thing is they have to deal with size next year. San Antonio is going to be better. Victor Wembanyama, and they're going to possibly get Giannis, and Houston's going to get better. And Dallas is going to bring Cooper Flagg in there, and that's a 6'9" guy. Now, he's not a 7-footer or anything, but he's going to work inside mainly. So they're going to have to deal with size in the Western Conference. And the only way to get – what are they going to do? How are they going to get size? Pajemski? He doesn't have the value that he had a year ago. And if he's untouchable, I'm going to vomit. He's not untouchable. So, Kuminga's the main piece. Then you got to get a piece that matches salary-wise with one of these guys. And I've mentioned the names, Miles Turner and Naz Reid. And I'm not saying these players are perfect, or even a Bobby Portis or whomever they're going to go get. They've got to go get size. And the best piece they have is Jonathan Kuminga, because there's going to be a team that says, look, we can corral the talent that he has. And then another thing that I tell you, I'm telling you this because I know, is that there's issues behind the scenes. They just don't see eye to eye. They're just kind of off. And I've told you this, and you and I have both been in this situation where you just have a boss that you just don't get along with. You don't know why. You can't really put your finger on it. It's just, you guys just don't vibe. And I had a situation years and years and years ago. I was running an ESPN station in Dallas, and the guy's name was Pete Ditz. And Pete and I just did not see eye to eye. No matter what I did, it just wasn't good enough. He nitpicked me all the time. I remember when I was leaving, I went to another gig and I was leaving, and I'd written this really great, to the next program director kind of a thing. I mean, the thing was this thick. It was like Gone with the Wind. And he reads the thing and he goes, nope. He's like, no, this isn't good enough. And then I had like a $10,000 bonus that I had earned because we had the highest revenue, highest ratings we'd ever. I mean, the station's rolling, but he didn't care. He just didn't like me. And I didn't like him. And so he said, I'm going to withhold this bonus from you unless you rewrite this. I said, I'm not rewriting shit. I said, this is a great piece. This covers every base. It was all about personnel. And we were the flagship of the Dallas Mavericks. And I had written everything in there. Like a dummy could have walked in there and gone, oh, okay, I get it. Like it was well written. It was extensive. All those things. And he just didn't like it and put it back on my desk. And he goes, I'm not giving you the bonus unless you redo that. And I go, hey, I'm not redoing it, and you can't hold the bonus back. I'm out of here. Like it's the only time I've ever left a job in a negative sense. I never burned a bridge my whole career. It was a huge thing to me. It's like I tell my son that all the time. Don't burn bridges. The business is way too small. Don't burn bridges. That was the only time. And I didn't walk out like that, but I was just like, I cannot wait to get away from this guy. So we were having a lot of success. It really didn't matter. We couldn't figure it, we just couldn't figure it out. I don't know why it ended up the way it did. It just did. And that's what Kuminga and the Warriors are. They don't see eye to eye, and they're trying to have big smiles and everything. And Kuminga was at the Valkyries game last night with like this next to Joe Lakeup and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to keep leverage with Jonathan Kuminga, but when he leaves, you'll find out. It just isn't working between the two. There's a problem. So Mike Dunleavy can say all the things he wants. I didn't even play the Dunleavy. Here you go. Let me play Dunleavy. I'm ranting on and on about this, but here's what Dunleavy said yesterday.
It's like there's no new contracts, right? So we've got to figure something out, and that's what it's going to be. We value JK. I think he had a resilient season. Is probably the way I'd classify it. He had some ups and downs playing. Most importantly, he had this injury where he missed 31 games. He came back. It was a new team. There were some adjustments. But overall, commend him for his professionalism. I thought he was resilient. And as far as bringing him back next season, I think it's something that we're very interested in doing, because when I look at the things JK does well in terms of getting to the rim, finishing, getting fouled, these are things we greatly need. And we know he can bring those to the table. It's not hypothetical. It's not a guy in the draft that we think can do it. He's shown for 4 years he can do that. So for that reason, we'll try to bring him back, but we've got to have those conversations. You got to figure it out. It's a two-way street in terms of, creating, getting a new contract and all that. So we'll see where it goes.
You mentioned that you guys have a level of leverage because it is restricted free agency, but also, his desire to come back will be part of the conversation. How much do you feel like there's a convincing that if he comes back, this is, the best place for his career? And how much will you also potentially look at, sign and trades with him and other options?
Yeah, we'll look at everything. I think it's hard to know, like 2 days after the season's over, like where it's all headed. I know where I see him as a player. I know how I can work with him here. I know how we can work with him better, but like in terms of guessing how it's all going to play out or what the contract might look like or sign and trades and things like that, I mean, honestly, I'd be totally guessing at this.
Again, it's lying season, and he has to say that, and he has to maintain the leverage on Jonathan Kuminga, and that was Anthony Slater, and that was courtesy of Anthony Slater, who does a great job covering the Warriors for The Athletic. Those are the things he's got to say. And so what people are going to say is they're going to take him literally at his word and write that. It's total bullshit. I mean, it's just 100%. And he's got to maintain the leverage. They're trading him. He doesn't want to be here. I've told you this before. The players have more power than they've ever had in the league. And if Jonathan Kuminga doesn't want to be here, then he's not going to be here. The Warriors don't want him, and he doesn't want to be here. And he's already wasted X amount of years in his career. Remember, he got drafted in the same draft as a guy like Jalen Green, and we've had this discussion. Would you rather be on a team that isn't very good and you get to play and work through the problems, or would you rather be on a team like the Warriors in which you don't get to play as much, but you understand and you learn how to play the game the right way and how to win and how to develop culture and do all those kind of things? He's had enough of that. He feels like he's ready to break out and score 25 a game and lead a team. Now, one of those two things is true. Jonathan Kuminga next year, if he's on a poor team, which he probably will be, let's say just for the sake of conversation, not going to happen. But let's say Giannis says, I'm going to the Warriors and you can't stop me and you better trade me there. Then Kuminga's part of a rebuilding Bucks team. He'll score 25 a night. I don't know if that'll lead to winning, but he'll he'll score 25 and grab 5 rebounds, and Warriors fans will scream and yell and throw their arms up. He was never going to be that player here. Dunleavy just said, well, we need that, that ability to draw fouls and get in. That's what Jimmy Butler does. That's why he didn't play. That's what Jimmy Butler does. What they need is a stretch big to balance the floor, because if you look at what they are, let's say it's Podziemski and Curry in the backcourt next year. It's Draymond Green, who's tired of playing the 5 and got gassed because of it against bigger teams. So he's your power forward now. And Jimmy Butler's your small forward, and you need a center. And you need a stretch, because if you look at the court, Draymond's not a consistently good three-point shooter, nor is Jimmy Butler, and we saw Podziemski's hit and miss. So what does the defense do? Well, they do what they did against Steph Curry in the playoffs. They just jam Steph Curry and run at him and grab him and hold him and do all those things because they don't trust anybody else on the floor to shoot it. That's where a stretch big comes in, because Draymond's not going to do it. And it's like, go ahead, Draymond. You want to shoot 30% from 3? You go right ahead. Go right ahead. You might hit a couple of ones early. Great. Then you're going to think you're good. And you're going to miss 5. You're going to clank 5, and we're going to beat you. Same thing with Jimmy. You can hit 1 or 2 in a game. I get it. But you're not going to beat us with 5 or 6, so you go right ahead. And that's a position, small forward, where usually you have a three-point shooter. I love that they have Jimmy. But it's kind of like a baseball. Okay, normal power position's first base. If you don't have one of those, then your shortstop better be one. Or you got to balance it somewhere. Well, it's the same thing in a basketball court. Steph's all worldly. Podziemski, if he plays like he did last April, okay, he's a real threat. And he's getting in the gym and be more consistent with his shot. But if he's not, then you just have Steph Curry. Well, how do you balance that out if you have a small forward that's not a three-point shooter? You get a stretch that is, because you're balancing your floor. That's why they like to have Quentin Post, but then Quentin Post is a total sieve on the other end of the floor. So they need to get somebody who can do both. Really difficult to do. But that's why you're trading JK. He wasn't in the rotation. If he was those things you said about him, and for 4 years he's been on a yo-yo, and look, some of it's been his fault. There's no question about it. But when you say that we've seen him do it for 4 years, it's a yo-yo. He's sick of it. I can guarantee you. He thinks he can go out and score 25 a game and lead a team. That's how he feels. He's like, look, I learned all this stuff. I got yelled at 1,000,000 times by Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr pulled me off the floor, and this, that, and the other. I get it. I've done my internship. I'm ready to go. That's how he feels. But more so, I think it's the organization going, well, this is clearly our best piece to use to get what we need. We don't have nearly enough size. You look at the Lakers and the Warriors at the end of the year, they're in the exact same boat. The Lakers trade to get Luka, which is a smart move, but they lose Anthony Davis and they get smoked by Minnesota because they have no size. If you don't have any size in the Western Conference, you're done. It's just the way it goes. And so the Warriors and the Lakers are in a similar position. The difference is the Warriors have a piece they really don't use that might be able to get them that size that they need. So Dunleavy can say all those things that he wants, and the media can write literally what he said, or they can go, you're full of it, which he is, which I'm not calling him out for. I'm simply saying that it's lying season 24/7, 365. And he's got to say those things to maintain leverage with Jonathan Kuminga, but he is 100% getting traded. There's no 99.9 about it. Like I said, the Warriors don't want him, and he sure as hell doesn't want the Warriors. He's done with them. I mean, that's just the bottom line of the whole thing. There's nothing they can say. Plus, they're not going to give him that contract. They're just not. They gave it to Jordan Poole. They regretted it. They're not going to do it. I say this all to you all the time. The greatest indicator of the future is the past. Well, what have they done in the past? They traded Jordan Poole. They traded James Wiseman. They traded like all these young guys. They've never been more sure in their direction. Even with those guys, they're like, can we still kind of go young? This time they're like, look, we just picked up Jimmy Butler. We extended him. We're going balls to the wall, pedal to the metal till Steph Curry gets run into the ground. That's the direction they're going in. So does Jonathan Kuminga fit that? No, he does not. And so they're going to go get a veteran big because they have 2 years on this thing, and they're running it into the ground. Jimmy 2 years, Draymond 2 years, Steve Kerr 2 years, Steph Curry 2 years. That's when the contracts end. And so they're looking purely in a tunnel like this, in a vacuum. Who can help us in the next 2 years? And we've had this debate for so long. When is Kuminga going to time out right? Doesn't matter anymore. He's 23 years old. I don't know, but they've got 2 years, and then they're going to run this thing into the ground. Is Jonathan Kuminga in 2 years going to be the number one build-around piece for the Warriors? No. So it's not going to matter. You're going to finish in the lottery with or without Kuminga. It's that clear. So you got to trade him. You got to move on. They've got a direction, and it's a 2-year window, and he doesn't fit it among all the other things that I just talked about. So there you go. All right. We wanted to hang for about an hour. That's what we do on Saturdays. And let me just double check to make sure everybody's doing cool today on a Saturday edition of the show. Like I said, keep those alerts on. I don't know what could break today, but you never know. Things could break, all those kind of things. But I could be back today. If not, I will take only one day off, and that is Sunday, the Lord's Day. We will take that day off, and then we'll be back Monday at 8 a.m. Just let me double check to make sure. And again, episode 142, a lot of Brock Purdy. If you joined us a little bit late and you're like, where's all the Brock talk? We went through all of that Brock stuff, so you can go to the beginning, or I'll get this thing up and I'll put the chapters up so that you can go back and you can watch the chapters, and you can check out all the Brock Purdy discussion we had today. A little bit on Wilmer getting those 3 home runs last night, and a little bit on Mike Dunleavy and trying to keep that leverage with Jonathan Kuminga, who is going to get traded this offseason for size. No days off. Yeah, you're right. I should probably work tomorrow too, huh? It's just a 1 day. I'm going to rest the vocal cords. Not really. I don't really need to. Actually, I don't need to rest those. Please like and subscribe, like Papa J always says. Thank you, Papa J. Always appreciate it. Yeah, it's only 1 day. Only 1 day. Skills, it is great to see you. It was great to see you last night on the with the Krug show. We had a good time with that last night. Every time somebody pops up in that with Krug, I always make sure that I show you guys a bunch of love. I'm always like, oh, that's my guy, or that's my girl, or whatever, I don't mean that in a possessive way. I just mean, I love seeing in those two as well. So there you go. Let's see here. Yeah. Believe me, if you only knew, and that's going to come out when the Warriors do their last dance or whatever. Bob Myers was running and screaming away from Joe Lacob, but that's for another day. Yeah, that's a good point. You're giving the Giants money either way, and F Bear too. Yeah, that's true. But I think that I'm speaking for A's fans, and who knows? I think A's fans would rather give, as weird as this sounds, the Giants money than they would John Fisher. But I could be wrong. But I think I'm right. But I don't know. Who knows? All right, everybody, have a great rest of your Saturday. I cannot thank you enough for making the time. Again, please make sure you're subscribed to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. So come on over. If you're watching on X this morning at John Lund Radio, please come over to the channel. Come over to John Lund Unleashed and hit us up with a like, a subscribe, and get those alerts on. And same thing, the Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube, where Tom Tolbert Show is, my show, Quality Hang with Rod Brooks, and Polymax Particles featuring our good friend Creative Tony. So make sure you hit us up there as well. Everybody have a great rest of your Saturday. Keep those alerts on. I'll jump back on if anything breaks. If not, we'll see you Monday at 8 a.m. on John Lund Unleashed. Happy weekend to you.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!